So let me introduce to you the esteemed panelists here for this supposedly midday session that is slightly delayed. So first of all, may I welcome Marc Halbfinger, CEO of PCCW. Please welcome to the stage. And Ahmad Farroukh, CEO of Mobily. Please join me on the stage. Srage, President of Qualcomm International. Pattison, International CTO of Mitel. Mr. Husein Rifai, CEO of MDIC. Mr. Gary Heffernan, Senior Managing Director of Accenture's Communications, Media and Technology. Mr. Hatem Bamatraf, Chief Technology Officer of Etisalat, and Mr. Youssef Abu Mutawe, Chief Operating Officer of Zain Jordan. Digital transformation, 5G as an opportunity for telecom operators, mobility and customer experience, and IoT services, enterprise digital transformation, the role and the potential revenue streams. But we will start with a topic that has been much talked about in the past couple of years, which is still promising a lot of potential and still, as of yet, partly undefined, which is 5G. Now, as you know, 5G promises speeds of between 100 megabit per second and 1 gig, extremely low latencies of below 1 millisecond, and also the ability to have a very concentrated set of users in a concentrated space. I wanted actually to start this with an audience question. So who in the audience believe that 5G will be a revolution in the sense that 2G, if we all still remember that, transformed our lives, a revolution that will transform the way that we live and work. Hands up those that believe that 5G will be a revolution in the way that we work and play and live. So some of you believe in a revolution. How many of you, please raise your hand, believe in more an evolutionary pattern? Please hands up. So there seems to be a very slight majority for the evolutionary path, with a lot of you still undecided. My first question goes to Hatem Bamatraf. Now, do you believe in an evolutionary or a revolutionary pattern? And given this projection of yours, what and how do you think that the telecom operators can benefit from it?
Well, I think you have made a very correct comment at the beginning when you said 2G for us was a revolution. And if we just look back, what 2G have brought to us, it's not mobility, because mobility was there before even the GSM was introduced. However, what GSM was successful in doing was unifying, of course, the standard, plus that it came and provided roaming and interconnection between operators. And in my point of view, that was a major shift in the industry or in the technology, and maybe that's why we are relating it as a revolutionary technology that it came. Now, applying the same logic on 5G, and we understand what 5G really means, it's not about, at least to me, and this is my opinion, it's not about connectivity. If we look at 5G as another connectivity technology, then it's for sure going to be an evolution of what we have, because it's not going to really bring any other new application or new system or new solution. It's just going to give us an enhanced speed maybe and an enhanced latency, and it is just going to be the classical technology that we have, an LTE or 3G and so on. But if we look closely, and if really 5G delivers the promises that it should, which is the latency and it's below 1 millisecond, then we are here opening up the door, the windows and everything. We are opening up to a new set of revolutionary application and a new set of business models. And here we are talking about IoT, and we are talking about mission critical application that requires a very small and short latency. And with the other dimension of 5G, it's the support of 5G that it will bring the number of connected devices, which is the IoT. 5G as a standard, it will support hundreds of thousands of devices. This is the promise that the technology will bring to us. So together, if you put the number of connected devices and the delay that the 5G will bring, if we look at this together, I think it will enable a new set of market and solutions that will revolutionize the entire model of service providers.
Thank you for that, Hatem. My next question goes to Jay Shrai, President of Qualcomm. Now, the telecom vendors in the past 2 decades, 2G was kind of the golden age of many of the equipment vendors. There were many of them out there, and we have a slightly more consolidated scene nowadays. Do you believe that 5G will open up a new golden age for the telecom equipment vendors? Yes or no?
Well, yes, it does. So that's the short answer. But when you take a look at whether it's revolution or evolution, it's really dependent. It's a decision to be made by the service provider or the telecom operator. We have 2 business cases. One is you have Verizon in the US, KT in Korea, that have decided to take more the evolutionary path, focusing on the broadband connection, and then the applications will come later. In the case of the EU, they are looking at it from an ecosystem perspective and how to connect verticals within a smart city, how to connect beyond broadband but into applications that go into mission critical applications, like you mentioned, as well as the massive IoT support. So the revolution or evolution is really a decision to be made by the ecosystem. The second level is more about fact from, or reality from fiction. We've been talking about 5G for the last probably 3 years. That's when it actually started. And for the first time, we actually do have a platform. We recently announced in Hong Kong in back in October, the first available platform in 2017 that will allow trials in specific bandwidth under 28 gigahertz. Which means that moving forward, we'll be able to push for trials in the second half of 17, as well as 2018 initial commercial deployment in very specific deployment or topologies. From that perspective, we need to look at commercialization in the 19-20 timeframe. So when that happens and you have the device ecosystem, then it becomes what are the service providers going to do? Because they got the ecosystem available. When you look at the evolution, every 10 years there is transformation. So 2G was in the 90s, 3G was in the 2000s, and that allowed the broadband connectivity to happen. 4G happens in the 2010s, and as we go into 2020 decade, you're going into the next transformation of the industry. So the operators managed to get high margins and managed to get ARPU on the voice and the data connectivity side. But the challenge was more on how to monetize applications. Now, if we skip 2-3 years from now and we do the proper planning into how to address the full ecosystem rather than just technology and devices, we should be able to be in a position where operators can leverage and monetize again with high margins these applications that ride on 5G.
Thank you very much. Ian Pattison, Now, you are the international CTO of Mitel, and Mitel, of course, has been leading for quite some time in NFV, voice over LTE, and voice over Wi-Fi. This promises to be potentially an exciting evolution on the 5G networks. Would you agree? Is this will these services proliferate, or will we see something completely different as we move to 5G?
I think as we move forward to 5G, we have to look at it not as just a new type of radio technology that we can run the traditional services over, but really as a completely different type of network. It's a dynamic network, it's a programmable network, it's an automated network. It's a network where the APIs and enabling service innovation is actually going to be as important as actual services are deployed themselves by the operator. In some ways, if you look at the move to 4G, we've actually missed the opportunity to exploit, as an industry, we've missed the opportunity to exploit the move to an all IP system. We've allowed others to take advantage of that, the OTT players to take advantage of the all IP connectivity from the device all the way to the network and to the end user. As we go towards the 5G, we have to look at how we can actually use APIs to exploit that, to innovate and allow service innovation in the network. So yes, there will be services, but if we're honest, VoLTE is the same traditional service done in the same telco manner, just using a different bearer. What we have to look at is how we take these technologies, expose them as a platform, and expose them to the people where innovation is actually occurring in the network, or in the overall ecosystem. That's the challenge for us. As part of that, as you go to 5G, it's not just a different type of network. We actually have to look about how we build that network and how we operate the network. This is, I think, going to be one of the biggest challenges for the operators. If you look at the successful internet businesses, they don't manage and operate and build their networks on a 3GPP innovation cycle of 2, 3, 5 years' time. They're much more in a DevOps model of continuous innovation in the network. This move to be successful, we're going to have to adopt this sort of approach to building and managing our networks, moving to DevOps, which actually means we have to look at how we actually implement services, going more to a microservices-based approach to it. It's these sorts of technologies, microservices, DevOps model, exposing the network as an API, allowing innovation, that will actually allow us to expose the network, to develop, as I think somebody spoke this morning, the verticals that we think we can address. But where we're not addressing the verticals, we expose the network as a platform for other people to innovate on. And we accept the reality is that we have not innovated, and we have to expose our assets to the people who are innovating and focus on the verticals where we can be successful.
Thank you for that. Now, we as an industry, we are typically criticized for not being customized enough. I'm going to ask a question about customization in perhaps the hardest part of our industry, which is the capacity and IP backbone part of our industry. My next question goes to Marc Halbfinger. Is customization possible and meaningful on the big transit routes? You are investing very hugely in the Middle East as a hub for the IP backbone. Of course, we have the very exciting development that was touched upon earlier today on smart cities, and of course both mobile systems and other systems based on LPWA and so forth are emerging across this region. How do you see customization in your field and in the Middle East?
I'll just speak loud. How do we see customization? First of all, IP backbone is actually a hierarchical environment. The wholesale IP backbone infrastructure today is really managed by about 30 different service providers around the world, maybe less. And if you go back only 15 years, the cost at a wholesale level of taking 1 meg of IP transit from any place to any place in the world was over $350 US. Today it's less than 50 cents. And so the shift in that value has basically moved IP transit as an eyeball or as a push to be almost at cost. As a result, service providers who are managing the IP transit component on a wholesale basis are eager to customize and work primarily with cloud providers for vertical applications. And most notably, I would say, around the area of security, but that's something which isn't discussed too much for various reasons, particularly around how to control DDoS and how to create clouds of applications. So I think what's happening in the last 15 years was first to get wholesale IP transit out to service providers. The next step certainly has to be service provider customization, feeding first the B2B environment to say exactly what Ian was doing to assure that the network on a software-defined network capability with virtualized elements from any vendor can in fact be customizable down to an end user, even if that end user is a home user and not just a large enterprise or enabling platform. So I think customization is the next step that we're headed to by definition.
Excellent. Now, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is transferring at an increasing speed with the Vision 2030 and the dynamic king in place. A set of unified licenses have recently been provided, or at least granted, in Saudi Arabia. Ahmad Farroukh, CEO of Mobily, you are one of the four parties with a unified license. One had it pretty much from the start. How will this change the competitive dynamics of the telecom sector in Saudi Arabia?
Well, thank you. Definitely, I think the unified license will give us a way ahead in the future to provide the different services that we can provide. This, I mean, the question for me definitely is how we can provide it. And we touch base on the 5G, we touch base on technology, revolution, etc. We, as mobile operators or service provider, the question is, to whom I'm going to develop all these kind of services? Is for the benefit of my shareholders or for the benefit of the single shareholders of the OTTs and etc. I think revolution should start from our end. For us at Mobily and in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to be beneficial of this very nice unified license that can allow us to do the triple play, fourth play, you name it. That we need, I think from where I sit, we need to transform ourselves. So on the 5G, yes, I can offer 5G, but I'm not gonna swap all my network to go to a 5G then and go to the second layer of BSS and OSS and find all these solutions, etc. I think we're looking more under a unified license to look at, I want to provide a service for my end user. And I don't want to go through all this hassle that I go through currently from the network is there, but what is behind the network instead in order for us to provide the ultimate customer experience. So a unified license talk about a fiber at the home, we have it, with your mobility and with your fixed or with your other content that you can have. How can I switch on a single app that I can do this? Currently, I don't think we can do that unless we change the model that we work with to be able to benefit from the resources and the licenses and the spectrum that we have. I think the transformation should start to benefit from this from our end, and it need to be, we have to look at it revolutionarily. I don't want to buy a software with a license, then the license need to be implemented, then the implementation need to have a product on top of it, and this product at the end of the day, the entire this ecosystem, I have to pay support and maintenance on it. This is not needed anymore in this new world that's coming. I would like to have a one service. I would like to have a bus of APIs. Whoever want to hook to my network can hook with utmost security in like a 3 days go to market, and I benefit from the revenue share and they benefit from the service provided. I think there's a challenge. The challenge is for us in Saudi now, we have this nice licensing coming to us, and the unified license is how to do the best of it and monetize it.
Thank you. On the 15th of October this year, we had a digital transformation workshop for the Middle Eastern CXOs as hosted by Götz Partners. And thanks all of you that participated in that workshop. One of the results of this was basically a question to the participating Middle Eastern CXOs. It was the question of where do you stand in terms of digital transformation? And in that workshop, 67% of the people in the workshop, the CX level, responded that they have made limited progress or not really started that digital transformation. This is staggering facts. 67% said either not started or limited progress. So this is an open question to anyone in the panel to respond. Why is digital transformation so hard for operators, I guess, both globally, but also in the Middle East? Anyone?
Great. Okay, great afternoon. This question is really a dilemma for mobile operators in the past few years, and the main reason behind that is really clear. Digital transformation is not yet defined very well at the OpCo levels. This is one thing. The other thing, today as we speak, the moment we want to opt into digital transformation, there is a heavy cost linked with it. The third thing, the complexity of supply from the service providers make digital transformation a bit non-clear for operators how to move into and how to exploit it the right way. To be more specific, we as mobile operators, we used for the past 20 years to work as utility providers. Never thought of our business as being retailers. And this is really the transformation that we need to make in our OpCos of moving from being a utility-like provider, like those who used to sell electricity and water and mobile phones before, to those who want to sell digital things. And I do believe this requires a big change in the way we do business completely. Before, we used to have an ecosystem that is really limited to us mobile operators, customer and vendor. And this is a very limited ecosystem that we used to excel in managing it clearly and to integrate whatever coming from those vendors clearly to our portfolio and to our end user. But with the digital transformation, I do believe we need to grow our mindset from being a utility-like provider into a retailer. And this requires to have a mentality that acquires and accepts all ecosystems in an easy manner. So what we need to do, and what we are really yet immature in, is how to grow our ecosystem to plug in other ecosystems easily, and to be able to grow our ecosystem to host those 2V providers, those sensors providers, those digital things providers into our ecosystem with the same look and feel and the quality we used to deliver to our customers. So the question here, how fast us as operators are able to integrate new startups, new unknowns to our system. I do believe still we are immature. We need to grow up our mindset in the right way to accept those digital service providers in an easy manner. And we need as well to change the way we procure things in our organizations significantly, because the old way of having things is really changing, and there are a huge complexity in terms of supply that requires more agile procurement mechanism and partnership model. And I do believe procurement will change into partnerships rather than procurement. So it will be a partnership model where you are in need for in order to bring to your customers more services in an agile manner. This is in one turn. In the other turns, mobile operators right now are really suffering from the fashion-like things. And how to distinguish between the fashion-like that we need to have and the things that could bring money. And yet today, till today, none of the operators has a clear roadmap to what should be defined under quality digital things that may bridge revenues, compensate for the drop in voice, and bring the game again positive. Still, this is immature in a big manner, and what we need to do right now in order to uplift our revenues is, frankly, to be able to integrate other ecosystems. How much is small is irrelevant, just to be able to bring them to our plate, offer their services as part of our products, and be able to maintain the look and feel of the services that used to excel in selling it to our customers.
We will take one comment from the floor. Any one of you that wants to comment, whether you believe that this was correct what Joseph just said, or if you want to express another view on what are the bottlenecks, the true bottlenecks for digital transformation in the Middle East. So please, anyone, we will pass a mic around. Any comment on what makes digital transformations so hard?
There's a comment from here.
Yeah.
You know, just for me, as I travel around the world, I think we confuse digital transformation with just another transformation project. Digital transformation is at the heart of the vision, the DNA, what you want to be in the next 10 years as a company. If I take my own company, Accenture, 4 years ago, we listened to our customers, we listened to our employees. They told us, if we don't stop customizing everything that we do, if we don't get stuff faster to market, if we don't drive the automation agenda, if we don't start taking more risk, we're going to be out of business. So we had to cannibalize parts of our own business by bringing in robotics and automation. We had to spend $1 billion a year creating new capabilities, from analytics to security to service design. We had to change the fabric and DNA of the company, rotate out 1/3 of our leaders, bring in new capability. And I think that's what's needed in the service provider world. It's really about leadership, it's about vision, it's about listening to your customers and employees, and it's about taking the programmatic, difficult decision that's required and rotating your company to a different place. And it's not about 5G. 5G may be an enabler. It's about customer centricity. It's about monetization in a smart way. It's about creating new services and new innovation. And I think the reason so many people fail is we try to do it bottom up, or we try to do it as another program. It's a fundamental restructuring of a company.
Thank you for
just
that.
to build on that, it's basically about the business case. And the problem today is that the shareholders of the service provider are not yet accepting, I would say, longer term for return on their investment. They're still basically, one of the major challenges we're facing is to be able how to have the proper balance between the high capex that would be associated with this fundamental restructuring of the service provider and the return that you would be able to highlight to them about that. It's now service provider are in the mode of how are we stabilizing, maintaining the revenue stream rather than having them growing. And the additional challenge to that, and I would say another main factor, is the human resources. You need to have different people in order to drive this industry forward and to change the way and the mentality of approaching things. And these are the two main difficulties that we're facing, the business model and the financial feasibility on one hand, and the human resources on the other.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But the model at the moment is the service providers are having to invest capex to maintain their revenues. And that's a broken financial model because they're not getting growth. And at the same time, historically, there's a lack of innovation and ability to do with internet providers, and the California company is, which is to try things, fail, go on and do the next thing, learn from that and go on and do the next thing. And that's the opportunity I see, is to build a network that allows us to fail fast, which allows us to innovate.
That's great. Now, Husein, you have been quite a long timer in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, East Africa, different companies before you founded your current advisory business. The past 2 decades saw a rapid growth in the Middle East, with the exception of the Lehman crisis 2008, 2009. Then the market slowed down a little bit in 2014, and it's now sort of evolving at a slightly slower pace. Will this force consolidation in the Middle East? And will we see consolidation on an operator level? Will it be contained to tower sharing? And how fast will be the consolidation pace in the Middle East?
There's clearly, I would say, a trend towards consolidation and toward having bigger players trying, I would say, to have more resources available in order to be able to afford those projects which can fail and to be able to invest in innovation. But at the same time, it's extremely important to understand that each market is different and that you cannot have, I would say, a standardized approach to doing things. In a similar way that you cannot have the same standard for smart city. And every country, every operator will have to examine its current status and have an opportunistic approach about what can be done within a certain environment which cannot be done in others, really. So consolidation, yes, but at the same time, you have to be opportunistic and to be nimble and agile in order to be able to respond to the market requirements and market needs.
Thank you, thank you for that. We have about 10 minutes left of the panel. So if you can a little bit warm up yourself for questions to the distinguished panel. Before we go into that, I have a question to you, Youssef. Now, Zain is known as a very innovative operator throughout the region. One of the themes here today is the combination of customer experience and mobility. What are you doing as a group and in Jordan on customer experience and mobility?
Thank you. For sure, today we cannot live without denying the close needs of our customer base. I will speak about Zain Jordan and then I will talk about Zain Group. In Zain Jordan, we changed the overall way we deal with our customers and the way we interact with our customers. We used before to interact with our customers using a phone call or just having a text display to our customers. Right now, with the new evolved services, it's not really wise nor really applicable to explain new services to our customers the way we used to. What we did recently, we have a visual communication with our customers where we elaborate and communicate and reply to the certain concerns using certain videos where we illustrate and describe our services and even the tactical things using a video library that is just pushed to the customer the minute he calls our call center. So from a digital perspective, we are trying to be not only digital, to be visual as well, and to make as much means to the customer to interact with us as possible. Today we have different apps in place as well. So we do believe that today the customer should be able to do whatever needed at Zain shops or at Zain call center or from Zain services without being presented in any point of presence. So he can log into the app and he can do whatever needed just using the digital channels. So from Zain Jordan perspective, we went into 2 dimensions. One, to have a digital channels in place to enrich the way customers interact with our customer services and our offers. The other thing, we tend to make most of things visual. And those are the 2 paradigms that us as Zain Jordan we did in the past time in order to uplift the customer experience. In addition to that, for sure you need to have a very specialized and efficient tool to measure the customer experience itself. What we did as well, we managed as well to have a very, I do believe it's a very powerful survey engine that is really homemade by Zain team to measure the customer experience, where we interact with the customer based on certain checkpoints and detection points, where we ask the customers who use just to come into our shops about the experience, the ones who experienced a dropped call, and assume that in the past week he experienced 5 dropped calls. We sent him a survey asking him about certain things proactively. All of that really has been shaped in the past 2 years, and the journey still, I do believe, it's at its start so far to take this forward. So we are doing that for sure, and on top of that, we are enriching our service portfolio with too many things as well in Zain Jordan. Zain Jordan, in order to enrich the customer experience, you cannot go into a one direction, you have to go into too many directions to boost the wow effect. What we did in Zain, we created an innovation center that is just owned by Zain Jordan and is open for all the youth and the startups and the new generation in Jordan to come in and to understand the new technologies the right way. So in that innovation center, it's a 1,000 square meter that is really a place to serve startups and those who are looking for new things, to understand the new things. It's full of services, simulations, virtual reality, augmented reality, all of that, robotics as well. All of that is placed in that place just in order to position Zain Jordan as a digital service provider and as a technology provider. And this for sure will uplift the experience and the wow effect of our customers. On the enterprise side, for sure, customer experience goes into the end user and the corporates as well. What we did recently, we have many cloud services as well positioned for the enterprises, easily can be subscribed, enterprises can subscribe to easily. And inshallah, very soon, Zain Jordan will have a disaster recovery site, unique in its shape, and can sustain a nuclear attack within the region. It will be hopefully up and running before the end of 2017. All of those new services, the new channels, the way we interact with our customers are meant really to boost the customer experience and to position Zain Jordan not only as a service provider, but as a digital and experience service provider.
Thank you, Youssef. So we're going to open up the floor now for a few quick questions on any of the 5 topics for the panel here today: digital transformation, 5G, mobility and customer experience, IoT, and enterprise digital transformation. So you have 8 esteemed panelists at your disposal. When you ask your question, ask for the mic, state your name and which company you represent. Please, hands up, questions from the floor. So we have a question here from Tony, and as I recognize you as not being part of the panel, you're allowed to ask a question.
I can ask.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, first question to Srage, Qualcomm. Okay, we talk too much about 5G, okay? There is no device, no spectrum, no regulation, okay? And Qualcomm last month, you launched the first chipset for 5G. Oh, do you think it's early or not?
Okay, so first, it's not. Let's start with the last question, which is it's not early. The technology is there, the platform is there. It's just a matter of when do you have the right ecosystem built around the technology. One thing we need to be clear with, which is this is no longer just about the consumer. The last 30 years, service providers, telecom operators were around the consumer because it's about connecting consumer to applications and the internet. This is about the new industries. So the consumer is part of it, which is the connectivity, the applications, the virtual reality, augmented reality, all of that. But when you talk about robotics, autonomous driving, when you talk about there's a new tactile internet, which goes beyond Internet of Everything. When you go in that direction, Are we going to sit here 5 years from now and complain how the automakers are eating the operators' revenue? Or are we going to complain about how the hospitals are going to be eating the operator revenues? This is the time to start planning. The technology is there, and it's going to work. So we're going to have devices in 2018. That's the first devices that go in the premium. By 2020, you're going to have high to mid-high premium kind of scale to those devices. The question is, how are they going to be used? And what are we going to do about it? We got 3 years to prepare. So in those 3 years, we can synchronize our regulatory frameworks, because regulatory part is going to be very important on which frequency bands and how it's going to operate. The other one is the investment in the ecosystem. So the investment in the infrastructure around the automotive side is going to give revenue share back to the operators. So the investment is going to be very important in those specific vertical industries. And the third part, which goes back to the technology itself and its evolution, it's not going to replace 4G. 4G is going to continue to evolve, and investments are going to become cheaper and cheaper as it becomes more of a mature technology. Today, we've got gigabit LTE to be launched next year. You've got narrowband IoT for machine-to-machine and Internet of Things. So all of that is going to be an evolution in dense urban areas to start with. You're not going to have 5G in rural areas. So it's all about the industries and how it's going to be enabled. And as a side target is going to be the consumer. So we've got the technology. I think we need to have people using it.
So we're going to take the very last question here from the gentleman, and then short and brief answer by the panel, the esteemed panel.
My name is Andrew Lan. I came from Huawei. I have one question for, let me say, Farroukh, if possible. You know, in this region, since I came to Huawei Middle East region, before I was responsible for Huawei Iran office, I found out that in this region, the #1 operator in each country almost account for 60% revenue, 80% profit, maybe 90% profit. So do you think this digital transformation of operator will be an opportunity for the second and third operator, or still this kind of situation will continue? Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds good. For sure, definitely digital transformation is an opportunity. First of all, you have to have, as mentioned on the floor here, in this transformation, there should be a DNA transformation. It takes specific DNA to be quite basically digital. And once you really go and cross and touch point across different segments, I would say different factors in your business, among them customer experience, among them other issues, the direct impact is simply will be directly on your OPEX. I'm in a country where 50% of the population are young. 50% of the population don't want to talk to a call center because voice for them is inferior. They don't want to stand in line and go to any of our very expensive, I would say, showrooms. They just want one single omni-channel, whether it's WhatsApp or whether it's any of these things, and touch a button and have either a self-service or get service through this digitally. If you look around what I've just mentioned, basically, first of all, call center, I would say, cost, which is very high in human resource, will go down. Secondly, cost of premises, shops, etc., everything will go down. And most importantly, you can get better better remuneration from your customer to your ARPU because you serve them. So once they like you are close to their attribution in life, I think definitely it has a direct impact on our serving model, thus our cost.
So Tony?
Yes, one question more to Gary, Accenture. Okay, Accenture has a lot of digital center where you help service provider for training, or even Internet of Things, smart cities. Can you elaborate how it works more with the operator?
How it works
digital
more with?
transformation? The Digital Transformation Center of Accenture.
So, just by way of context, 8 billion of our 32 billion is with the telecom service providers. And the conversation everywhere around the world right now, in terms of where our focus, where our effort is on this issue of business transformation and business model. And I think the single biggest issue this industry's got to deal with right now is to win the battle for the customer, to convince customers that you can drive more value than anybody else. And I think that requires a fundamental DNA shift. So all of our assets, from our analytics capability, from our consulting capability, from our technology capability, is being focused all in, from CEO right down the organization, to figuring out how do you make that DNA shift. Recognizing the world is changing, customers have more choice than ever before, to turn the dial on customers, whether they're wholesalers, consumers, or global players. And I think, frankly, we're in danger as an industry of going backwards, not forwards. Because as I look at NPS and other simple arithmetic around the world, the signs are not good. And I think here in the Middle East, as I said earlier, you guys have got a chance to change the game. Right? This is an innovative community. You've got a unique relationship between government, telco, and ecosystem. And I think you've got an opportunity to demonstrate to the rest of the world what good looks like. And we hope to be part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. In a brief moment, we will start with the networking lunch. Before that, I would like to thank an absolutely smashing, extraordinary set of panelists. Big applause.